You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. A very sweet tooth episode for you today. It speaks to the soul. Everybody loves ice cream. Even sugar-free ice cream or dairy-free. Is there a dairy-free ice cream?
Dairy-free. We actually don't do sugar-free, but we do dairy-free.
I have a slight dairy allergy, which I found out
There's a lot of people.
Ago.
You'd be surprised how many people.
And I never noticed it until I had a milkshake every day on a recent trip. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I guess I have a small dairy allergy.
Maybe my stomach doesn't like this.
But the person that you're listening to on the other side, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Angela Muir, who is the owner of Boomtown Creamery.
Yes.
Love your shop. It's
Thank
just
you.
And I love the cart of whatever it is, the slide of mix, right? You got 6 in it, right? 5 or 6 in the slide. You can choose.
Oh, in the flights.
Yes. Flights, yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
Instead of just one.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in Oklahoma generally loves ice cream. There's, a huge chain that's obviously around here that is very well known that people go to that I don't understand why they eat food there. Ice cream I understand, but the food I don't understand. And they have terrible service always. Like I said, remain nameless. But that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. But yeah, Boomtown Creamery, you've been here a couple of years now?
Actually, just one. June was 1 year.
That's crazy. It's going so fast.
Yeah.
But it also feels like you've been here a long time because
Yeah.
just the amount of times I drive by it or pop in every now and then. And ice cream makes everything better.
Yeah.
As it said on your bio, on your Instagram, on your website, it says even if you just have been broken up, you're probably, if you're just going through a breakup, you're probably diving through a tub of ice cream, which is a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Ice cream is always the answer. Is kind of our tagline.
That's the neon sign, right?
Yeah. The neon sign at 23rd Street. It's like if you want to celebrate something, if your kid got a good report card, you go get ice cream. If you are going through a breakup, a pint on the couch sounds about right. So yeah,
definitely sounds about right. It's, and I'm a big kind of caramel fan. And a raspberry type, any bear, not a huge strawberry, but raspberry, something with a little bit of sour in it, I guess. Love Sour Patch Kids. Totally unrelated, but I tend to go that way, and then cheesecake's huge as well for me. But the good thing is you have 20 flavors?
24.
24?
Yeah. 4 of them are always non-dairy. Okay. So we, like you had said, you mentioned, we have 2 things for our non-dairy friends. We actually sell Lactaid at the counter. So if you've ever tried taking a Lactaid pill before it's like an enzyme, breaks down the enzyme better. And anyway, so we've got Lactaid pills if you forget yours, but then we also have 4 non-dairy flavors. So 2 of those are oat-based. Yeah. So they're they taste and have the texture of ice cream, but they're with an oat milk. And then we have 2 sorbets, and the sorbets are fruit based.
Okay.
So they're like completely allergen friendly, and the oat base is really allergen friendly too. But there are still some people allergic to oats. So we've got just strawberry and basil and sugar and water. That's it.
And you brought your Boomtown book with you.
I did.
Fantastic book.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to interview Sam when he was on his book tour here once. And was just awesome. Lovely book. Great story. But before we dive into we love to kind of find the origin story, right, on this podcast.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about you. Where did you grow up? What's kind of like, and how do we get into being an entrepreneur and figuring out that ice cream is the thing for me?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
I wanted to leave Nashville, Tennessee very badly when I was in high school. So I went to the East Coast for college. So I went to Rhode Island. I went to art school. I really thought I was going to be a fashion designer. I went to school for fashion design. I graduated college. I made custom wedding gowns for a while. I've kind of always had this like entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I would say my first business was in the 4th grade when I was charging people on the playground to paint their nails. In the 6th grade, I was actually selling Avon to the teachers at school. I was an Avon sales rep. At one point in high school, I went to wholesale clothing market, bought wholesale clothing. I did like an at-home boutique before it was, now everyone has their own at-home boutique. But, so I've just always had a really creative drive, and I've always wanted to figure out ways to make money with that creative drive and to create things. So after college, I did wedding gowns, realized that brides, normal people with an engagement ring on before their wedding, turn crazy. So they are literal crazy people. Okay. Yeah. So and making their dress is probably like the most stressful thing you could think to do. And so after quite a few experiences where I was like, this is actually not for me. I then created an accessories line out of recycled coffee bean sacks. I've had 9 creative lives. Seriously. Okay. I've had a lot of iterations of businesses. And I would say a lot of the early businesses didn't quite succeed in the way that, it's not like I was selling wedding dresses, to hundreds of people. Not at all. It was probably 12 dresses in 2 years. And then I made these, I kind of fell into these coffee bean sacks. There's a local coffee company in Kansas City where we lived. And I guess I'm kind of skipping over the fact that I got married in college. And then we moved to Kansas City for my husband's job because he was an entrepreneur. So he opened a pest control company in Kansas City. Okay. And I was making these wedding dresses, and I started making these tote bags, and everyone loved these tote bags. So I ended up going to wholesale market, selling them. There was at one point, there was this really awesome department store in Japan that was selling them. But I had become a factory worker. My husband would come home at night, and we would be grommeting bags. One year, the year that we had our second child, we sold 3,000 bags, and we made them all. And it was okay, we've got to stop this. We have 2 babies that are 18 months apart, and we're making, tote bags in our basement. Okay, this has got to stop. So at that point, kind of took a break from what I would say real businesses and just started blogging. In 2013, I started my creative blog, Handmade in the Heartland, and it was awesome because it was I could cook and put recipes on it. I could sew and put sewing projects on it. I could kind of do whatever I wanted. There was no pressure of deadlines of a bride. There was no, customers bags in Tokyo, all these things. So I just did that for a while. My husband sold his business. He decided he wanted to go back to school, so he went to dental school in 2016. And during that summer before he went to dental school, I had this idea that I really wanted to open a shaved ice business in Kansas City. I really wanted to open a gourmet shaved ice business where we put ice cream in the middle of the shaved ice. No one was doing it in our little suburb. And I told him, we kind of had this moment where financially we were kind of in a tight spot. Some things had not worked out business-wise on his end, and we had this amount of money in the bank for dental school. And I was like, I want to spend it all and open a shaved ice business. And he was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I think it will work. I think it will get us through dental school. I really do. And he I don't know how or what faith he has in me, but he said yes, which was kind of crazy. And in the summer of 2017, we opened our shaved ice business, and 500 people showed up opening day, which was kind of like this wild, amazing thing that happened. And for 3 years, during the rest of dental school, we did shaved ice. We sold that business. And so I kind of feel like Lilo's was like my first real success. It was a business that we started from scratch. We grew. I learned so much doing it. And then we were able to sell it for a profit when we moved. And so that brings us to Oklahoma. So we moved to Oklahoma because he got a job with the dental group here. And some of our friends from Kansas City had moved to Oklahoma. And so they were like, hey, come down here. It's really great.
Yeah.
So then we come to 2020 when we moved here, like during the pandemic. We moved here in May of 2020. Like, there is not a worse time to move somewhere to change, to uproot your life and your 4 children. I also skipped over. I had 2 more kids in those years of shaved ice. I actually had a baby on July 1st, 2019, like in the middle of the summer doing shaved ice. I'm in the hospital. My husband's at a 4th of July event asking me all these questions about how and it was just, that's kind of, anyway, that's probably more than.
It's an entrepreneur's life.
Yeah, totally. And, it's like unpredictable, and everyone's like, that quote of like, you have a plan and it doesn't go like the plan at all. I truly thought I was going to be a fashion designer and make wedding gowns for the rest of my life. And now I'm making ice cream. So, it's just, but it's almost, it's better than what you planned out, the way things happen. So we moved here in 2020. Did not want to do shaved ice anymore. Was like, no, I'm done. And I actually did something really strange, and I got a corporate job, which was so interesting. I got a job at Hobby Lobby corporate and started working in their art department as a designer and stylist. And I learned so much. So 2021, I started at Hobby Lobby, and I made some really amazing friends who are I still work with today through Boomtown. But it was just like this really interesting experience for me of like learning how a larger company works and seeing the processes and learning some more about, just how business works and on a much larger scale. So it was really interesting. But when I was at Hobby Lobby, I got bored. And I kept thinking about ice cream. When we moved here, we had a place in Kansas City that we went to every weekend. Like, it wasn't a date if we didn't end up at Betty Ray's. And when we moved here, we tried all the ice cream. Like, we literally went to every single place that sells any type of frozen dessert. We tried it all. And we just like always felt a little disappointed because it wasn't like Betty Ray's. And I just thought, the city needs a really good ice cream place. Like, I really want a good ice cream place here. And I kept thinking about it. And I'm kind of one of those people. It's just like the shaved ice. Like, if I have an idea and I really want to do it, it's going to happen sooner than later. And so, I was still at Hobby Lobby, and I found a commercial real estate listing. So I found this real estate listing for the 23rd Street store, and I sent it to my husband, and he's like, I think you need to learn how to make ice cream. And I was like, the details, I'll figure it out. Like, this is the spot. I know it. This is the spot. And so the next day I had found a 3-day workshop in New York for commercial ice cream making. And I sent it to him. And it was 2 weeks later in December. I was like, can I go? And he's like, sure. And I think at that point he knew, like, okay, like, this is where we're going. Like, this is what's going to happen. Like, there's no stopping this train now.
Yeah.
So yeah. That was December of 21. January 22, we signed the lease for 23rd Street and opened in June.
Yeah. And now you have 3 locations now too, right?
We do.
2 others. You kind of assumed 2 others recently?
Yes. Yeah, we did. So we have a South OKC store at 104th and May, and then a small Edmond store on 5th Street, kind of downtown Edmond.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, which I love, because like while you're speaking, I'm like writing all these notes, like just things to unpack. Where does your craftiness come from? Like, where because clearly that's a theme for you growing up. Like,
for sure.
And also a mom and dad entrepreneurs growing up.
So my parents were divorced, and my mom, dad had a really stable sales job my whole life. And then my mom is very crafty, very creative. She did own her own business as well. So yeah, for sure comes. And that craftiness, like we were always making things, always doing crafts. Yeah, just always kind of doing things. And I don't know, I was always like, I wanted to be different when I was younger. I didn't want to wear clothes that anyone else had on, or like, I mean, that's kind of like gone away. I don't really care about that anymore. But when I was younger, it was like the clothing aspect was like, I want to be different, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that
Different in
definitely
a like high fashion different, or just different in general?
I think I thought it was high fashion,
Right.
you know, in high school.
Devil Wears Prada once, and you're like, that's me.
Well, it is kind of funny. I was, you know, especially in high school, I was like really obsessed with fashion. I read every Vogue magazine every month. It came cover to cover, read every article. And then I went on this graduation trip to Italy, and on the island of Capri bought a Prada bag, like a really tiny one, because it was all I had money for. But I just felt like amazing. Like my life was like at a peak at that moment, you know. And it's funny because like as I've grown up, you know, as an adult, it's like those things really don't matter to me anymore. It was somewhere after college, a couple years, and I was like, gosh, I don't care about fashion that much anymore. Like I want to look nice and presentable, but that's just that's not a priority anymore. Right. And I kind of like grew up into realizing like I want to help people. I want to be around, like I want relationships to matter. I want to provide, you know, right now it's like I want to provide jobs for people where they enjoy their work and they enjoy coming to work and that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely growing up, it was just always making things and then trying to sew or make clothing that was different, you know, so I would be different.
I mean, why did you want to get out of Nashville so much too? Obviously, Nashville's probably not what it is now.
Oh no!
Right?
Okay, let me just tell you,
insane.
Nashville has changed so much. I go home. My dad and stepmom still live there, and so we go home, you know, every once in a while. And I'm like, this is a different city. I mean, it is the cool place to go right now. I mean, and when I was growing up, it was still cool, but it was more like the country music place. Yeah. I don't know. I just felt like I felt like it was a small town, but it wasn't, you know, I don't know. I just wanted to be independent so badly. Yeah. Like I wanted to just go and be somewhere new where I didn't know anyone and start my own life, I guess.
Yeah. So you choose Rhode Island. Right. Far away as possible.
Far away and the tiniest state there is, right? Yeah. I went to Rhode Island School of Design. Yeah. So it's an art school, and I wanted to go to California, actually. I had all these schools that I wanted to go to.
What were your choices?
Well, I had all these schools that I was going to apply to. Uh-huh. And then my dad took me to visit RISD. And on the campus, like I was like, it was like angels singing. Like I was like, this is where I have to go. Like, this is it. And so early on, I got a full ride to ASU, and I was like, okay, well, if I don't get into RISD, I'll just go to ASU. That seems like a fun school. It'll do. But I got into RISD, thankfully, and was able to go there.
So does the school, for people who don't know the fashion world and school fashion world as well, is RISD quite a prominent school in that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like Parsons in New York is a little bit more well-known. RISD's more of like a fine art school, and the apparel program's great, and there's lots of people that have graduated. Nicole Miller is a big name that went to RISD. Like there's quite a few. And then if you go into the fashion industry and like all the people who work there, I mean, there's a lot of RISD grads. But yeah, it was just, I mean, and it's so close to New York, like, you know. So then when I graduated and all my friends were moving to New York or LA, and I was moving to Kansas City, my friends were like, where are you going? Like what, the middle? Like what's there? You know? And I will say I was a little depressed for the first several months after leaving, because it was like, what am I doing with my life? You know? But like I said, like things happen through your life and you realize like, oh, this is better than what I had planned, what I wanted originally.
You said you got married in college? Mm-hmm. How'd you meet your husband?
We met in Nashville. In between my freshman and sophomore year, we met at church, and we dated long distance. He was in Utah, and I was in Rhode Island, so we were long distance for 2 years. Got married in between my junior and senior year, and then we moved back to Rhode Island for my senior year. Okay. And then that's when he started forming the company with his best friend from high school. And then we moved to Kansas City to start the pest control company.
Gotcha.
So, and he was actually going to med school. And then we kind of changed plans and he decided to do the pest control company. Yeah.
So the dental thing came. Well, dental thing wasn't so much as a surprise.
Yeah. And we always knew pest control was like a means to an end. It's kind of like, it's a weird industry where people just build these companies and sell them to Terminex or Orkin or like big. It's a weird little industry.
Interesting.
So we always knew it was a means to an end. We'd do it for so long, and then he'd do something different.
So the shaved ice thing.
Yeah.
Is there is it quite a competitive business? Is there certain, like, I heard stories about the shaved ice business being like, it's very, like, you can only be open certain time, like,
yeah, so
is that right?
Well, it's temporary. First of all, like it's seasonal and temporary, which is kind of amazing, right? You only run this business for 3.5 months or 3 months of the year, and then you get to close it, put it away. You know, it's super fun. But
why is that other than the weather?
Because people don't want it. They like literally don't want it in the winter. Like as soon as school starts, people are like, "That's a summer treat." Like people will still eat ice cream, but shaved ice, that super cold, it is like. It is such a summer thing. It's just funny. I will say there's like chains like Bahama Bucks that have done well year round in really hot weather like Florida.
June, July, August is where it's at.
Yeah, like we would open Memorial Day and close Labor Day. Like it was literally just a summer thing. So I think Oklahoma, it's funny when we moved down here, there's a shaved ice shack on every corner in Oklahoma. Literally every corner. In Kansas City, there wasn't. There was a hole in the market. There was not one in our little suburb. And so it was like,
we even have trucks driving around with shaved ice. Ice cream trucks, shaved ice trucks.
Yes,
right?
yeah. Like there's just a million little shaved ice shacks. And so it was like, well, here in Oklahoma. So that's when we moved here. I was like, no, I'm not doing that here. Like, no way. There's already a ton of them. But in Kansas City, there wasn't. Yeah. And so it was like, I think this could be really good. And shaved ice is one of those businesses that doesn't take a lot of money to start. Yeah. So, and it was just, that was kind of like, I feel like everything in my life has kind of taught me something to get me to the next thing. And so when I was blogging, I went to all these blog conferences and took all these online courses for, social media marketing and how SEO and all of these things. And it was like, I can and learned photography and all these things, and then I was like, I can totally use this and make a business. And so like, I always credit the reason that people showed up to a business that was brand new was because I took good photos. I created a good logo, like design. Like design's kind of the backbone to everything I do. Like that's where it started, and that's where we go, and so that's in my opinion, it's kind of the hook that gets people somewhere. Your product has to stand up to it once they get there, but that's kind of how you get people in the door.
Yeah, and then a killer logo always goes a long way too, right?
It does.
Then you branch off into hats and apparel, and a friend of mine and a friend of the podcast too is Bailey from Bondi Bowls.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah,
super.
And just seeing what they've done. And
she's amazing.
But also on the merch side as well, like she gets it too. Like you said, there's a lot of logo stuff and branding and design that goes a really long way. It's not, it's not just, obviously you've got to have a good product. Yeah. But everything else brings people back too.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we always say with Boomtown, like we're creating a whole experience, it's not just a scoop of ice cream. Like it's so much more than that.
Yeah. So the book, do you pick the book up when you're on your way, like thinking, I'm going to Oklahoma City, I need to learn about the city?
No.
Like, how does that come about?
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So when I was working at Hobby Lobby, my good friend Shay, who actually still does all of our photography for Boomtown to this day, he was on my team and he was my photographer, and we just became friends, and he's like, you should really read Boomtown. Like being new to Oklahoma City, this was before I had even had the thought of ice cream, he's like, yeah, you should read this book, because we were just talking about books, I think. And he's like, you should read Boomtown. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read it, And I will say, in 2021, I did not feel like Oklahoma City was home. I still missed Kansas City. I mean, the whole May to December literally, I started in March of 21 at Hobby Lobby. We had moved in May. I hadn't even been here a year.
Yeah, and COVID.
And then it was during COVID, so I really hadn't even met many people, and everyone's wearing masks at school, and my kids, it was just a really hard move. And so I still didn't feel like it was home. I still was like, okay, when can we move back to Kansas City? That's where my head was. And I have to say, reading Boomtown, I don't know, it connected me to the city in such a different way. And even like, I think some people read this and like love the thunder parts, right? Because that's kind of feels like what it's mostly about. But like all of the other parts are what I loved more. I thought the basketball part was interesting, and just knowing that how the Thunder really put Oklahoma City on the map in certain ways. And understanding that, but like all of the land run, no idea. You learn that in Oklahoma history, I'm sure, when you're growing up here. But I learned about Davy Crockett, and I learned about the Tennessee Volunteers. Like I learned Tennessee history growing up, so I had no idea about this, and it was just fascinating. Like the whole the land run, all of the history that he writes. Sam does such a good job of writing in a way that's like super interesting, and so I just felt the part about the bombing, the chapters about the tornadoes, like all of it just like, I don't know, tugs at your heart and makes you like kind of see like, oh yeah, like I've experienced these same type of interactions with people at work and people at church and people in Oklahoma, and you can kind of like connect it to like the book and how like, oh, like this is a really great place. Yeah. So after reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like I just felt it really helped me feel like Oklahoma was home. And then several months later, I'm telling Shay, who told me about the book, I'm telling him like, I'm going to open an ice cream store. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to open an ice cream store. It's going to be really good, And he, I kept like, my husband and I were trying to come up with names, and there were several different names on the table. And Shay was like, Boomtown, like no one's used it. And, Boomtown's a pretty sick name. And I'm like, you're right. Like Boomtown Creamery. Because I was going back and forth. Like we didn't really know. Like 23rd Street location was definitely like my number one, but there was also a location on Broadway and a location in the Paseo. And so I kind of was thinking like Broadway Creamery or the Paseo Creamery or something like that. And it was like, no, it's Boomtown. Like it's Boomtown Creamery for sure. And I love that like you don't even have to say creamery for most people who know us. Like they're just going to Boomtown, And so it's just become like I love it. And kind of a full circle moment for us was in October. Sam, so I reached out to Sam. I think I tagged him in something on Instagram, and he messaged back, and he was like, hey, like I'd love to come see it when I'm in town. And I'm like, yes, yes. And he's like, I'd love to do a book signing. I'm like, yes. So he came in October for something, and then he did a book signing at the store. We had him in, and it was just really fun. And I think like I brought my copy because he wrote like the sweetest thing in it. Like it just like made me so happy because like, in my mind, like he's the celebrity who writes for the New York Times and everything. And he's like, to Angela, it is one of the coolest facts of my life that there's an ice cream shop named after my book. And like, he was like totally, excited about our store. So it was a fun moment. For sure.
Full circle. I love it.
Yeah.
Talking about the land run, one of my favorite stories in the book is when he decides to walk in like 100 degrees.
Oh my gosh, I know. From like way far south to like, you're like, oh. And it's funny, when he came to the store, he was like staying somewhere downtown and walked to 23rd Street. Like he just always walks.
Like I'm gonna walk. I guess that's a New York thing. Right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. But like, as he says in the very beginning of the book, like you're going to need a car. You're going to need to rent a car at the airport because you can't get around without one in Oklahoma City.
Anyway. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's and then like I said, you get to use everything that's in that book, right? You kind of use it as an anchor point.
Yeah.
For as far as design, mottos,
yes.
And then because that obviously helps you tie into the city as well. So
yeah.
When Shay's like, you should use Boomtown, it's not just the name. There's so many other things in the book that people have read and know about that tie into all the stuff that is the city anyway.
And when we were planning our menu, there was like, okay, how can we pull in some Oklahoma names? How can we, like chocolate tornado, it's our number one flavor. It's a dark chocolate ice cream with like fudge brownies, fudge swirl, chocolate chunks, and like that. And it's like, okay, most people would just call it chocolate fudge brownie, but like we're gonna call it chocolate tornado. And so we do that often. A new flavor that we have is called. And I came up with the name because I was so frustrated driving down 40. I drive from our new production facility. We built a really big kitchen because now that we have 3 stores, we make everything in a central. It's I-40 and Meridian. We have a central facility, and then we deliver it out to the stores. And between 40, between Meridian and getting back to 23rd Street downtown, there's a lot of potholes on the interstate. Okay, it's terrible. It's over a bridge. There's a part of the bridge,
both lanes,
and it's so bad. And I texted Chef Kaylee, our chef, and I was like, come up with a flavor for Pothole Paradise, because we need a name. I've got the name. Like, we need a Pothole Paradise. Right. And so she came up with this really, really fun flavor. So it's just, yeah, I mean, I'd like to tie back to Oklahoma as much as we can.
Yeah. Tell me about going to New York for your, once the husband says, all right, go for it. 3 days. Yeah. Learn how to make ice cream. Yeah. What's your knowledge at that point of ice cream? And then tell me about that experience going out there and learning, really deep dive in. Yeah. Like, I'm sure it was 12-hour, 18-hour days learning ice cream, because 3 days is not a lot of time to learn. Yeah.
So what's really interesting is the man who taught these workshops, he invented cookies and cream in 1978.
Wow.
Okay. So his name is Malcolm Stogo. He's like in the Ice Cream Hall of Fame. He is very old. Okay. And he has an assistant that that helps him. But he's just kind of this living legend. It was just kind of fascinating. So going into it, I knew I wanted to make an ice cream store, right? I knew I was going to create an ice cream store. I knew that's what I was going to do. And I had no idea how to make ice cream. I mean, obviously I know that it's like milk, cream, sugar, these things, right? But I remember in Kansas City when we went to Betty Ray's, we probably ate Betty Ray's ice cream more than we ate our own shaved ice. Okay. There's just only so much you can eat shaved ice, but ice cream you could have every day. Right. And so I remember Matt saying don't you want to make ice cream one day? And I'm like, oh no, that sounds so complicated and so hard, and it's science. And so going into it, I'm like, I've got to figure this out. I've got to learn. And it was just the best thing I could have done. So he has this whole little mini ice cream production facility in his basement of his house. It's outside. It's in Orange, New Jersey. Actually, it's right outside the city. And so you just spend the whole day with him. And he has multiple machines, and he teaches you how to make it, and he teaches you how to use the machines, and he teaches you just all these different recipes, and it just gave me a really good starting point and knowledge of I was confident enough to be okay, I can do this. And he lets you call him after and consult with him a little bit. And then I made some other connections in the industry. Really, my biggest mentor right now has been, so Malcolm was awesome. And then I met Chad, who owns ice cream stores in Idaho, and he has kind of been my mentor. He's been doing it for a lot longer than me. And so he's I call him all the time, especially those first 6 months, and was asking him a million questions. So he's generous to be helps his students. He kind of takes on consulting for new ice cream stores. And so those mentors are just invaluable, because it is, you think it's a restaurant, it's a dessert place, it's like a bakery or something, but it's not. It is different. And ice cream, I remember the first batch of peanut butter I made, we moved into everything I feel is always, first of all, when you're building out a store, construction never is on time. Okay. It's very frustrating. We were supposed to open in April, and then we were supposed to open in May, and then it still wasn't finished. And so I didn't open until June 22nd, but my kitchen wasn't finished until June 18th. And I was opening on June 22nd. So I literally made ice cream for 18 hours a day to get ready for it. But the first batch of peanut butter I made, it came out of the machine horrible. It came out foamy. And I was like, what happened? What's wrong with this ice cream? And so thankfully, I knew Chad. And so I sent him a video of it, and he's like, what did you do? And I'm like, I don't know what I did. Help me. I'm opening in 2 days, And he's like, I think you put, but it was the fat content was there was too much peanut butter in it, and I over-processed it. There was all these things, right? And so this also is the ultimate reason why I hired Chef Kaylee. Because after the first summer, last summer, I was making all the ice cream, running the store, managing the staff, training. I was literally doing everything. And it went well, right? The opening at 23rd Street went well. And so finally by August, I'm okay, I've got to hand something off, and I want to hand it off to someone who knows more than me about something, right? And so the kitchen is what I want to hand off. I want to bring in someone who knows about the fat content and this and that I didn't go to culinary school, And so that was probably the most, the best decision of 22 that other than opening the store, hiring her was key.
It takes the weight off your shoulders,
right?
It
does.
And also, for someone who is an entrepreneur, and that first hire is such a key hire. Yeah. And it's something that lets you go focus on the marketing, the other stuff, dealing with employees, whatever it is.
For sure.
Rather than stressing that you're
Yeah.
making ice cream for 18 hours every day,
Yeah.
you know, and not being able to lift your head up and look at the big picture and future of the business.
Right. And I think it was important. I kind of have this motto of like, I want to do everything in my business before I hire someone else to do it. Like, I'm going to scoop the ice cream first. I'm going to deliver the ice cream first. I'm going to, you know, like, I'm going to make the ice cream first because I want to know how I would do it. But then I want to hire someone better than me, hopefully, and they can improve it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, with the place in Betty Ray's in
Yeah.
Kansas City, did it kind of, what were the things that you wanted? That, and things
That I
you
wasn't
wanted,
finding.
things you wanted,
Yeah.
but also things that you just made your own too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. So I wanted like chunky ice cream, right? Like when you go to the grocery store and buy Ben & Jerry's, like there's tons of cookie dough in that ice cream, right? Or they're like the Jimmy Fallon one that they did for a while that had like the chips and that, like I like stuff in my ice cream, and that's one thing I wasn't finding in Oklahoma City. Like I want brownies and I want cookies and I want stuff in my ice cream. And then I also wanted something that was exciting, that had change. Like that's probably another theme in my life is like I always am like changing. Like I always want to change things. When I was growing up, it was like I always wanted to rearrange my room. I think every month I like rearranged the furniture in my room, you know, and then like I used to change my hair like, you know, every 3 months or something. Like I just always am changing, right? So when I go into an ice cream store, like I want something new to try. Like I don't want to now there's a lot of people who are like, I just want my cookies and cream. Okay, I've got that for you. Okay, Oklahoma, I have cookies and cream. I will never take it off the menu. You don't have to worry. And it does bother me a little bit that it's our best seller, but I'm also going to have something really cool for you to try, and just try something new, because so that's one of our goals is to like have new flavors, push people in Oklahoma City to kind of try something different than they wouldn't before.
Yeah.
So
because we're creatures of habit. Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, you know, people aren't like you in Kansas City going there every weekend.
Yeah.
If you're going somewhere every weekend, you pretty much try everything.
Yeah.
But most of the time, like maybe if it is once a month or once, you know, they just it's a safe bet to have
for sure.
cookies and cream, right? Or you know, whatever it is, chocolate or whatever it is that your go-to is.
Yeah.
But if you're listening, try something else. You won't regret it.
You won't, I promise. You know, and sometimes we have, like, I will say one of the first flavors that Chef Kaylee did that I would never have come up with, but I loved it. It was a Persian flavor. We called it Persian Rose. And it was a rose flavored ice cream with candied cardamom pistachios in it. And it was so good, you know, but I never would have come up with that flavor. And I was like, yes, you're amazing. I'm so glad you're here.
Is there any, you talk about cookies and cream being your best seller. Is there some that are just like, that you think just stand out flavors that like no one will take you're like, why isn't this selling? Like, why didn't this do well? Or you should try this because it's such a hidden gem. Ones that just like,
you know, I feel like we go through all our flavors pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some new flavors that haven't. So we do seasonal. So we have 16 flavors that are always in the case. Okay, so like Bananas Foster is kind of a surprise one to me because like my husband and I loved it. We roast. I mean, it's a long process. We roast bananas for hours and then put them into the base, and then we make a banana rum sauce that we like swirl throughout. And I didn't know if people would love it or not, and people do. So yeah, I feel like all of our classics like have, I mean, that's why they have stuck around, right? Thunder Road actually was one of our first flavors. It was a take on Rocky Road. Didn't sell very well. So I was like, okay, let's switch it out with something that is selling. Like Lemon Berry Bliss was supposed to be a seasonal and go away, but we kept it because, and you know, so we do that. Like if something, you know, really like people are like obsessed with it, then we'll just keep it and kind of move something that didn't sell as well. We had a really fun savory flavor for April Fool's, and Chef loved it. And she, I think she was a little personally offended that it didn't sell more. It was a pimento cheese ice cream. And I told her, I'm like, this is not going to sell, but we can put it in the case because it's April Fool's and it's fun. But we actually served it with potato chips. You could get potato chips with this. So it was almost like a dip, but like, anyway, it was delicious. But Oklahomans did not Love it.
Can't see that. Maybe around Masters Week down in Georgia.
Well, and it was Masters Week
It
too,
was Masters Week,
because it was
okay.
April, and so we're
you're
like
right.
it's Masters, but yeah, it didn't. We actually, it didn't go over well, but it was still, it's fine. We didn't make a ton of it.
Well, that's what seasonal is for,
Yeah.
right? Seasonal is for, practice or like testing or trialing something. They like you said, the one that stayed, the lemon one, it's a great excuse.
Well, and there's
to try
just so
something
many
new.
flavors to make, right? Like Kaylee and I, we have a shared note of all of our ideas it's like flavor ideas,
Yeah.
and we just have
Endless.
Yeah.
You've also done some collabs as well in the first year. You have one with JB,
Yeah.
right? I remember seeing that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've done others too, but that kind of something that you want to focus on going forward and have it makes sense. It seems like a no-brainer, and people do it in the brewery world.
Yeah, exactly.
And not just like among other, breweries or whatever. It's great to like cross different, like obviously you and JB and other stuff like that. I understand it. It makes total business sense.
Yeah.
And then also you're opening up to their market too, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting 2 for 1 effectively. How's that been doing the collaborations? And then do you have any others coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah. So I love it because it's just super fun I'm a people person.
Yeah.
I love to meet new people. So, and then when I do meet someone, it's like, let's work together. Let's do something fun together. And it's just been, and it's really fun with ice cream. So to get people to make, so JB's was really interesting because, so he opened Eastside Pizza House. They have black crust. They use activated charcoal. We're like, okay, we can use that in ice cream. And we did his a complete mystery flavor. So people had to try it. Like, even the staff didn't know what was in it. So, and it had a spicy raspberry jam. So it was like a kick. So it was like a spicy ice cream, and it was in February. So for Black History Month. And it was just a really fun. And so it was like, okay, moving forward, like we want to do this. And, it was really important for me to like be able to open up to new communities that are not my audience, right? That are not in my circle, and to let them know that like this is their ice cream shop too, right? This is for the entire community, for everyone to feel comfortable in. And so like our Better Together, we did a Pride flavor with the guys from Craig's Emporium. That was super fun. This rainbow layered ice cream that took the kitchen way too long to make, but it was delicious, I'm super excited. We've got one of my favorite local celebrities is our Mayor Holt, and we've got a flavor coming up with him soon. So that's going to be a really fun thing to work on.
Is he a big ice cream guy?
What's really funny is we asked him the first time we met with him, what's your favorite flavor? And he said, what do you think he said?
Vanilla.
He did! He said vanilla! And I was like, Mayor Holt.
Come on. Got 24 in the case right now. You said vanilla.
And I will say our vanilla is delicious, but like vanilla. Okay. But then we kind of talked more, and his flavor is, actually, he was I was like, okay, tell me about like memories with desserts. Do you have a family dessert? Do you have like, what? And he's like, oh, well, actually we go to the Jersey Shore where his wife's family's from. And he loves this cherry water ice vanilla soft serve swirl. Okay. So we're kind of doing a play on that for his flavor, and it's really good.
Yeah.
So it'll be in the case probably around Black Friday.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
So we're excited about that, and we've got really anyone in the community who wants to like partner with us. Like we think it's fun, and like reach out, and sometimes we can do it and sometimes we can't, just depending on the timing and everything. But it's just fun to work with other people and to not be siloed into like this is all we do. This is the only thing we do. Like we want. Community is one of our core values. Sure. To be a space for the community to come and enjoy, and but also to reach out and help others.
Yeah. Obviously you haven't been here that long. Mm-hmm. You've been here a little longer, obviously, than the business.
Right.
Do you see getting to a spot where, like, husband's got to move now because he's got a new job in wherever, and you selling the business, or you think this is home now, and maybe we'll go make more locations, or what's the plan?
I will tell you this: I will not move my children again.
Because you have 4 now, right?
I have 4.
Yeah.
My oldest is in 7th grade, but I will tell you I tell this to I wouldn't even move to Edmond, honestly. I would not move houses, because when moving my kids, like it was like, especially for my second daughter, it was just traumatic. It was she cried every day for a year. Aww. It was heartbreaking. It was so bad. And so I'm like, nope, we are here until we're empty nesters in that house in Piedmont. Now, I wish that I like Piedmont, but it is 30 minutes from any one of my stores.
Yeah.
And so I love our community. I love our neighborhood. I kind of wish I would have moved a little closer to the city when we first moved here, because like I said, I will not even move houses, because, with kids, it's kind of like if you moved school districts, you might as well move states. Yeah. So no, we're here. I mean, my husband is super happy with his job, with his patients, he's got a dental practice in Yukon. The big picture goal for Boomtown is we would like more locations. Now that we have our central facility, we have the space for it. I've always said 5 to 6 kind of stores in the metro is my goal.
Okay.
I don't really have a big desire to go outside of Oklahoma City. It's kind of interesting. Like almost every city has its own small batch ice cream shop. Even Tulsa has several. And so I just kind of want to be here. When you think of going out to get good ice cream, I hope you think of going to Boomtown.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
And just be then in those little districts and those pockets, so people don't have to drive, like you said, 30 minutes to wherever you're at.
Because the truth is ice cream is a neighborhood thing. I mean, it's a matter of convenience, and it's kind of your neighborhood where you're going to go get your ice cream. We do have people that travel for us on the weekends for date night and stuff like that, but really we want to be in your community so you can come after school and on Friday, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Exciting times.
So,
and then worth driving from Piedmont.
Yes.
It's kind of funny because I'm up not in Piedmont, but I'm up that way as well.
Yeah.
So I totally get what you're talking about. Every day I drive 30 minutes somewhere.
Yep. It's like 25 minutes. Anything from my house is 25. I'm like, okay, I've gotten used to it. But I will say my neighbors and friends in our community are like, when are you going to have one closer to us? And I'm like, I know, trust me. Yeah. I want one closer to us too.
Yeah. Well, it'll happen, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
But that's the good thing too, is like you said, you have that central kitchen now.
Yes.
You have capacity to grow.
Right.
It's just waiting on the timing and locations to pop up. And
we need some time. I think I've promised our staff no stores in 24 because we need some time to really hone and perfect and build the 3 stores that we have. But I'm not making any promises for 25.
You're going to have 6 in 25.
No, I will never open 2 at the same time again. Our 2 stores this year opened 2 weeks apart. Oh. There was a week.
You're kind of forced into that, though, right? That wasn't a decision.
Yes.
That was just a matter.
I mean, it was a decision, right? I did decide to acquire the other company, but I would never have chosen if that opportunity had not come to do 2. But there was a week before Edmond opened that I was sleeping from 9 to midnight, and then I would go make ice cream from 12:30 to 10 a.m. And then I would go finish the store, and then I would go, and because the staff would come in at 10 and make ice cream. And so we were making ice cream. And for a week, I slept 3 hours every night.
24/7.
It was wild. And then I crashed. And then I just crashed.
The things
but it's
you
worth
do
it.
to be a business owner, right?
Right. There's a quote, I quit my 9 to 5 so I could work 24 hours.
Yes. Yeah.
True.
And you speak to Shay and your friends at Hobby Lobby, what do you do? And you're like, I've slept 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm making ice cream.
Yeah. All the time.
I'd love to go back to my 9 to 5 and have a weekend off. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, is there anything else you want to kind of do? Have we missed anything? Is there anything else that we've missed that you want to finish with?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Website's boomtowncreamery.com.
Yep.
You have South Oklahoma City, Moore area, Oklahoma City, 23rd Street, and then in Edmond.
Mm-hmm. We're on DoorDash. So
DoorDash
pints, we do pints, takeaway pints, and all of our flavors of pints are on DoorDash for all 3 locations.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of fun. If you're at home and you don't want to drive, you can just DoorDash a pint or 2.
Catering too?
Yes. Okay. Events are a big deal.
That's right. We first met at TED Talk because you had your cart.
Yeah.
Which obviously TED Talk thankfully was just down the street for you too, which is perfect. But
yeah, we love events. So tonight I'm delivering 200 scoops to a sorority party in Norman. So we can corporate events, weddings, all the things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you want Boomtown at your wedding, because maybe that's where you went on your first date.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah.
It can be done. Well, Angela, thank you so much. Thanks for coming in, sharing your story. It's incredible. I wish you all the best for the rest of the year. I wish you all the best next year. No stores next year, just perfecting everything you do have, and then look out in 25.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. For people listening, I'll put the link to Boomtown's Instagram. You should go read the book if you haven't read the book either as well. Sam
and we sell the
Boomtown.
book.
You sell the book, and also the website Boomtown Creamery, and we will catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.